Hey y'all, this is John Trent from Batting Into Comics, and it's another day in Hollywood with another gender swap. Before we get into the meat of the story, I'd like to ask if you could please hit that subscribe button. Please and thank you. So let's dive into this. A female Zorro is reportedly in the works at CBS Television Studios from Propagate. The report comes from Deadline, who state, quote, Propagate already is developing several new shows, including a reimagining of Zorro with a female protagonist from Alfredo Barrios Jr. Barrios Jr. will write and produce the show, and Deadline describes it as a, quote, modern-day retelling of the Zorro mythology that follows Z, a female descendant of the warrior bloodline who will go to great lengths to protect the defenseless in her community. A little bit of a background on Barrios Jr. He is the producer behind the reboot of Magnum P.I., and he was also behind Burn Notice. I actually like Burn Notice. I haven't seen all of the episodes, but from what I've seen, it was a very well-written show, very slick, had a good combination of drama and comedy, and I like the relationships between the characters. I have not watched the reboot version of Magnum P.I. If this story sounds familiar, though, the female descendant of the warrior bloodline named Z and gender swapping Zorro, it should, because back in March, my colleague Jorge Arenas reported on a rumor that an upcoming Zorro film that was going by the title Z would see a female Zorro named Z. That's Z-E-E. The television show is reportedly just the letter Z. Not only was the film expected to focus on a female Zorro, but it was expected to take place in the not-so-distant future, aka modern day, kind of, very similar to the television show. She was also expected to take on a corrupt organization known as M-Corps. It also saw the mantle of Zorro passed down from generation to generation, which that's exactly what we're seeing in this description here. Warrior, descendant of the warrior bloodline. So you would assume that there's a lot of the warriors in the Zorro bloodline, and she's just supposed to be the latest. So I would not be surprised if the Zorro film concept that we were hearing about back in March has actually been repurposed for television. Disney recently admitted they repurposed their rumored Obi-Wan Kenobi film for television, and we know we're getting that Obi-Wan Kenobi television series now starring Ewan McGregor, so it's not unheard of to see films being repurposed for television. Not to mention, it looks like TV and streaming are the places where studios are investing in as they see their box office takes dwindling, and they are seeing constant revenue with streaming services and licensed deals. CBS has specifically talked about both increasing their content on CBS All Access as well as licensing their television shows to other networks, which we see them doing with Channel 4 with Star Trek Season 3 of Star Trek Discovery. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a CBS All Access show, or if it gets licensed to a streaming service, or potentially a network channel, because that is part of CBS's plans. As to what we might expect other than a female Zorro in a not-so-distant future, Gael Garcia Bernal, who is expected to star in the Zorro film, told Variety, quote, I can say very little because I don't know when the project will happen. I have no idea. It will definitely be very different from previous filmed versions of the story. It takes place in what can be called New Spain, when California was still part of Mexico. It was a whole different time. There was clash between Catholic people who spoke Spanish and Puritans who spoke English, and there were also issues of slavery. That angle has never previously been explored in Zorro, but I can't reveal what my identity in the film will be. So you get a little bit of that background. Potentially that could be happening in like a new future where you have a clash between Catholics and Puritans. So who really knows what it's going to look like, other than what Deadline says. She's a modern take on a female warrior protecting the defenseless in her community. If this TV project eventually comes to fruition, it will be the first female Zorro. That's not to say there haven't been female Zorro-like characters. In 1944's Zorro's Black Whip, Linda Sterling starred as the Black Whip because Republic Pictures was unable to actually use Zorro. Dynamite Comics' Matt Wagner and John K. Snyder III also introduced Lady Zorro in Zorro Rides Again number 9 back in 2012. The character would misunderstand Zorro's goals and use his name to seek vengeance. As for my take on this is a complete non-starter for me. It sounds way too similar to Batwoman, and we see how that's turning out as it continues to bleed viewership week in and week out. The only reason to even use the name of Zorro is for the brand recognition. Other than that, this story doesn't sound anything like Zorro, especially since they're calling it a modern day retelling and the character's name is Z. Why not just launch it as a brand new franchise and give it its own unique spin rather than trying to slap the Zorro label on it? But Hollywood's goal is to make sure all their masculine characters are replaced by women, so it makes sense they wouldn't want Zorro to escape their agenda. My prediction, this show will be a absolute bomb. It'll be Terminator Dark Fate level bomb, if it even makes it out of the gate. My name is John Trent, and you've been watching Bounding into Comics. Until next time.